News breaks, we break in.
If you are a politician, get ready to hide under the desk. The Real Tony D. Angelo, Tuesday, 7 a.m. Eastern on the Lee Elci Show at 94.9 News and Stimulating Talk.
The Seat of Honor. Brought to you by Densmore Oil and Bug B Plumbing. He's up late to give you the news you can't get anywhere else early. He fights for truth and justice and the American way. Please welcome our pal from the Paragon Trust Company, the real Tony D. Tony D'Angelo.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It is 7 minutes after the hour, 7 o'clock, and our very good pal, Tony D'Angelo, joins us every single Tuesday at the same bad time. You can find him on the X. Great stuff up on the X, Tony D'Angelo 7. Follow him there. Also, he's got his own YouTube page. Every Thursday, he populates more video, and you can check that out as well. Tony, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Lee Elci. Good morning, everyone. I'm proud to be among you.
All right, so we are going to start, I believe, with Connecticut DOGE today, correct?
Yeah, well, we talked about, thank you. We talked about that last time out, and I had mentioned my thought and my concept for a citizen no-holds-barred DOGE. And on April 30th, I said, let's have a little fun with this. I mean, the great part about X is that it separates the person from the it separates the media and the politics from the citizen and the information. And so I did a poll April 30th, and what I said is, are you for or are you against a Connecticut no-holds-barred, full disclosure, across the aisle, nonprofit, quasi, whatever in the hell a quasi is, still trying to figure that out, agency, executive, and higher educational citizen DOGE. And on that poll, 1,300 people saw it. The actual voting with 49 votes, guess what the percentage was? 91.8 of people looking at that said, we need this now.
Yep.
8.2% said no. Now, you think, okay, well, it's a small sample. Well, let me tell you something. Statistics wasn't my best subject in school, but Nielsen ratings on television uses a sample where they millions and millions or billions of dollars are spent as to what people are watching. They use, I believe it's an amount of families which is 0.033% of anybody that happens to be watching television. So if I multiply that percentage by all the Connecticut voters, what would be considered a bona fide poll would be 765. So I'm like doubling that here. And in this analysis, three or four things are quite clear. Again, it's amazing to me what happens when you get politicians and media out of the flow between citizens and information. Not one person polled or commenting felt that Connecticut government could DOGE itself in any way, shape, or form. It is all viewed now as a part of the problem and not a part of the solution, if ever. And the other thing, Lee Elci, is the political system is so out of touch with the normal everyday person who wants to see government shrunk, wants to pay less in taxes, who wants greater accountability, and they want, the case in point, we'll talk about in a moment, who wants government out of the way, but out of education and things like that, but for the basic functions. Now, the other thing, and this is really, the revelation, the next Republican candidate for governor had better be prepared to ask these questions as to why, not a case of will you do this, but why won't you do this? Because if not, they're going to be an evident part of the problem as opposed to the solution. In other words, it's like Nixon, my announcer on 30 with Tony. Break all the GD China. That's where we're at right now. The light has gone on. The cat is out of the bag. People have had enough.
No, I totally agree with you, and I wish I had seen your poll. I was telling you off the air, you would have got a higher percentage because I would have voted for it as well. And Every single citizen in the state of Connecticut should be for this. It shouldn't be 91%. It should be 100%. Why wouldn't you want some kind of
Well, you got to
reckoning?
remember, if you're somehow tied to that food chain and you believe the food chain is valuable to you, you don't want to see it happen.
I guess you're right. I keep saying
no,
that,
I mean,
but
that
you're right.
to me if it was 100 to 0, it would be rigged.
Well, I guess you're right about that. But I do think it is necessary. It is desired by most of the constituents. I think you're right. I think if you're running for office, you should be pounding your fist on the table, demanding it, saying that you would, if you became the governor, you would absolutely make sure that it happens, et cetera, et cetera. And, they always come back to, Tony, they say, oh, well, they all have these forensic audits, or they have this, they have that. None of it does anything.
A citizen, Doge. A
Exactly.
citizen. Let people at the information.
Yep.
I mean, and it's like, well, you can't let people know the information. It's like, well, what have you guys done for 30, 40, 50 years? Give someone else a chance.
I love it. I love the idea. And I hope somebody entertains it moving forward. And it have to be a Republican because a Democrat would never do it. So, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's believe me. I mean, the one thing Elon Musk has done is that he has brought that separation, that Great Wall of China, out of the way, and people are saying, well, yeah, I'm paying for this stuff.
Right.
I mean, I'm living with it. It's regulating me. Why can't I have a say in what's happening?
Tony D'Angelo 7 up on the X. Maybe you can take a look at that poll, see it for yourself.
Or, maybe I'll run it again.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Run that again, and we'll try to share it and reshare it. Maybe we can throw it up on the Facebook, too, and see if we can't get some more play for you. Up. I don't know. Can they do that? Can you do an X through the Facebook? I don't know. You must be able to do that.
You can do a link, I believe.
Yeah, I think you can do that. All right. Moving from that, we all of a sudden in the last week have been talking quite often about homeschooling. What have you uncovered here?
Well, this is interesting. Now, I've been following this again. I'm not a parent. I'm not a grandparent. I love children. Kathy's a mom and a grandma. But what you're seeing right now, what I have learned is that it's never, in Connecticut, it's never anything organic starting from here, unique to here. It is never the heartfelt sentiment of people in government being concerned about children. It is something much bigger than that. And basically what you got going on right now globally across the country, or at least in, shall we say, blue states, people are seeing the wolf, entering the neighborhood. Maybe he hasn't come to the door yet, but he's coming pretty close. So the unions are getting nervous. They're seeing DOGE. They're seeing the abolishment of the Department of Education. They're seeing their influence become diminished. And so my first thought is, I was watching this actually in February. The same darn thing that happened in Hartford yesterday happened in Illinois. It was the same scenario. Now, as we know, Connecticut's great for propping up media events and then doing something right after that. Case in point, the BLM mural a couple of years ago, right? Show us a video. George Colley and I are like, show us the damn video, and they show us something that looks worse than the Zapruder film, for crying out loud. So it's like, where else is this happening? I say to myself, well, Connecticut, we know. We don't have to. Many people will talk about that. You don't know. You don't know what the hell's going on with bureaucracies, but sure enough, it does. Illinois, there was another event. There was a young man, Zion Staples, that died. People are running around in Illinois saying, this was going on for years. Nobody was doing anything. And now you bring it out, and now there's something in the legislature. Michigan, there was a Fiore case and a Brown case. Same thing. Years and years and years, nothing happens, and then bang, it's in the legislature. Now, you say to yourself, what actually is happening here? They lie and they play. And it all comes down to the fact that if it's a global push, you're going to get very little traction in Connecticut, because it's a small state and it's like, not going to be a nationwide thing. But if you start to do this in other places, the educators will come out, and the bureaucrats will come out and say, well, we're concerned about children. Lee Elci, maybe some of them are concerned about children, but for the most part, they're concerned about themselves. They're concerned about the funding. They're concerned about what will become of me should this thing happen. And I think it all comes back to the DOGE thing. it all comes back to the thing of people have just simply had enough, going back, 5 years with COVID, of government dictating to them what they should do against things which, they themselves know are right. And you get into these metaphysical arguments. Well, kids are more threatened in school than they are at home. And, the percentages, it's like, yes, that's all true. But the main thing is, all of this happens not because these people generally are concerned about the welfare of children. They're concerned about their influence. They're concerned about their funding. They're concerned about their positions. And, that's really the functional thing, because if that's not the case, why is this happening in like 3 places? And then there's Colorado, and then I believe one other state. But you can look it up. You can do a Grok and a Google. You'll see this happen in a lot of places. This is really a, quote-unquote full court press.
What's the negative, though? Like with a positive, there's always a negative. The more I look at the homeschooling, the more I like it. But, there is negative to everything positive. What do you think on that?
Oh, a negative to homeschooling?
Yeah.
Kids should be able to go to a school that they feel safe in and socialize with other kids.
Yeah.
And learn social skills and learn, how to deal with one another. I like the idea of group homeschooling, and I believe a motivated and concerned parent can do probably a lot more, not probably, but definitely a lot more than what they can get in the public school system.
Right.
That's not, quote unquote, the fact that, all parents are wonderful teachers, just that the bar has sunk so damn low. That's the pitiful thing. It's another one of these situations. More and more money goes in. More and more money goes in to fund special education. And you say to yourself, well, is more money going to solve the problem? We've got a problem here if there's too many kids that are academically deficient. Why is that happening? What can we do to change that? We can't ask those questions, because then you start threatening food chains.
Interesting. That's a good point. And basically yesterday up at the Capitol, I got a couple of pieces of video that were sent my way. Hundreds of people came out to support homeschooling. So kudos to them for that. All right. You wanted to end with charity?
Well, it's kind of part and parcel of the same thing. There's been a lot of back and forth about, Harvard and Harvard getting its charitable status revoked. And the first question, I believe I tweeted about this last week, can Trump revoke Harvard's charitable status? And, there's the reasons that he lists and things like that. And basically, what we're coming into right now, which I think is good, is an awakening of how much of our money is used for, whatever you want to call it, public politicizing interest, and it's supposed to be for the public good. And this is the whole thing. As my partner, the partner in charge of my group in New York years back would tell me, the late Bob Frisch, who was a legend, he'd say, Tony, you always got to go back to the code. Look at the code and then bring things forward. Don't look at things from the top down. Look at things from the bottom up. And when you look at Section 501c3, it's very explicit. It says you cannot be a charity if you're involved in carrying on propaganda, I'm reading right from the code, or otherwise attempting to influence legislation. Okay, so that's what the book says. Now, the world has been doing something different. So you get a lot of people that say, oh, no, Trump can't do that. Oh, it's impossible. This can't be done. This is like, hey, wait a minute. Let's look at the way how the thing works. First of all, if a charitable status or a charitable exemption is to be revoked, you don't need an act of Congress. You don't need to call the House into session. The IRS is an administrative agency. The agency can decide to revoke a charity. And you want to know something? I counted it up last night. I went to my service and I did a couple of things. We're going off the page. There have been no less than 1,000 revocations in the past. I ran it back for 5 years, and no less than 1,000 revocations. These are not revocations like I didn't fill out my forms, I didn't get them, and these are revocations for cause. You did something wrong. Your compensation was too lavish. You didn't, you had too much of a whatever you want to call it. You had 4 Rolls Royces where you could have had 3 Volkswagens and things like that. And the thing is, there's precedent for this. There's a case. Bob Jones University versus the U.S. went all the way to the Supreme Court in 1983, and the school had its tax exemption revoked because Bob Jones University had an interracial dating policy that was, like they were saying that we're going to throw you out if you date somebody of a different color. So, I mean, it's like, it's not that this can't be done. Get over it. It can be done. So it's like, can the president revoke? Can Donald Trump revoke? Just say, I want that revoked. He can't. But what he can do is he can have his agency look at it, and if there is cause for the charity or the school or whatever going off the rails, you bet your bird it can be done. I mean, it's the kind of thing that and then it's not like Harvard. Like if that happens, they can like walk away and just kind of put their tail between their legs and say, "Gee, it's been a nice run, guys." They have all the rights of appeal. They have they have 3 levels of appeal. They have the tax court. It's like Harvard is not. If you're concerned about Harvard has its rights. Any charity does. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that this can happen. And when people say, well, wasn't there something in the tax code about a president can't? It wouldn't be the president doing it. I mean, if you're going to, there's Section 7217 that says that a president can't commission an audit. No, but a revocation's a little bit differently, and he throws it to his agency, he lets his agency decide. And I mean, I'm at the point right now where there's been so many abuses of charities. There's been so many things where charities have done what they're not supposed to do. Like this morning, before we started to talk, I started to look at Advanced CT in Connecticut. I mean, what charitably has Advanced CT done? Well, let's see. They housed a secret COVID committee, and it's used for business development of certain chosen businesses of our Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable. I don't see any charity in that. That's not, helping the poor and the widows and things like that. So, I mean, this is, how could I put it? I want to see charities do charitable stuff. I don't want to see them politicize. And, like this morning I was watching Carly Shimkus interview a young lady, ask the question of, well, isn't this going to be a war? And like when Democrats get in, they're going to start. And how you eliminate that is have a bright line. You got to do charitable stuff, period, end of story. And I mean, I don't think anything's going to happen with Harvard, but I think the end is we're going to see some cleaner charities because this abuse is just, it's incredible. And again, you pay for it. You pay for the government funding for people to politicize code violation. And yeah, it is within the power of the government to revoke charitable exemptions.
Real quick, just on a sort of a college note, but in a different vein, why do colleges receive so much taxpayer dollars, Tony?
That's a darn good question. I think it's the revolving door. There's like and this goes on in industry and it goes on in engineering where if you're, I think like Jim Comey's a perfect example of this. There's a whole bunch of others, but it's like too early and they can't think of them all. When your party's in power, you have an appointment or a board or whatever. When your party's out of power, you go to a place like, Lockheed, where he went, and you become corporate counsel. And, wink and a nod and a luncheon and a this and a that, and you get the funding. That's kind of like the title. It goes on in law firms, goes on in accounting firms. I'm sure it goes on in other places. That's how the funding goes in because basically, people are hired to glad hand and to bring funding when they're not, quote unquote, in the arena. Then when they get back in the arena, they do a little bit more. Then they come back to another firm or something like that, and they do in some place. I think it's terrible.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's so incestuous that if Trump wants to look at something, I would hope somebody would take a look at that.
Tony D'Angelo, again, up on the X, Tony D'Angelo 7. YouTube, what's the story going to be about this week?
Well, on Thursday, we're going to talk about kind of the same thing, consider the source. We're going to look at information and, what people are told. Then what I have learned is you got to look at the person telling you and say, what is their reason for doing it? It's a horribly suspicious thought, but this is the age we live in, my friend.
All right, Tony D. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you as always. Tony D. All right, we'll come back. Bruce Flax will join us for an hour of nothing. Liz Koranowitz after that. Stick around. Rob Sampson will at least talk more on homeschooling at 9:05. Stick around, everybody. 94.9 News Now.
The taxman's taken all my I can't sail my yacht. He's taken everything I got.